some things that came up. So we will have this available on recording. But as we take a look at preaching God's word in the book and the principles, they have a concept for interpretation, realizing we're here in our town. This is Lakeland. Of course, it doesn't look like this now. I need to update now that we've got that new building being built there on Lake Mirror. So get the updated picture once that one gets all finished. But we're reading the Bible. We take that to be God's word, but it was originally written. Each book was written by a certain individual to an individual or a group of people in a different situation, a different time, and a different era. And we believe that it is God's word for all times and all places. But there's this thing we have to do called taking the interpretive journey, because we're separated from those people by this river that prevents us from being able to grasp everything that they grasp. And that's the first step of the process, is we need to figure out what the original author intended to communicate to the original readers. And what did they understand it? What did it mean to them? And so that's something important for us for accurate interpretation. What did the author intend to communicate to the original readers? Why was the letter written? What was going on in their time, in their life? What were the specific situations that they were addressing and dealing with? And how did that influence what the original author was trying to write? So this is the exegetical process. It is trying to figure out, okay, what separates us from them? We got to figure out the river that we're going to cross. Once we've gotten a grasp of what that original writer intended to communicate to the original readers, before we can figure out how to apply it to our listeners as we preach, we need to recognize the fact we have a different culture. There are different ideas of things in terms of what's acceptable, what isn't, how things are done on a regular basis. They spoke a different language than we do, and things don't work exactly the same. It was a different time, a different era. They had different technology available to them than we do. That affected those things, the different situation, the specific deals that they were dealing with. And if we were looking at the Old Testament, we understand the Old Testament was the Old Covenant given between God and the people of Israel. That's not going to be the case for this series, because we're going to be dealing with the book of the New Testament, which we believe applies to Christians. So we don't have to deal with interpreting, okay, does it still apply to us in our new covenant? So these would be some different situations there. So we start by, again, grasping the text in their town, and then recognizing the width of the river to cross. That is, what are the things that separate us? Once we've got a handle what the original writer intended to communicate to the original readers, now we want to figure out what can we bring back to the listeners in our town that's separated by culture, by language, by the situation, by the time, covenant, if we're dealing with the Old Testament. Once we find something that applies on both times and both places, and we can do what's called crossing the principalizing bridge. That is finding that principle that applied to the original readers, that the original author intended to communicate, that we believe God can apply to our listeners today. And that's what we're looking for. What is the theological principle in the biblical text? And that's something about exegetical preaching. We start with the biblical text, not with our own idea about what we want it to say. We look for something that's similar between our listeners and the readers of that first book of the Bible. We want to be sure that whatever we're saying is affirmed by the rest of the Bible. Like we talked about, sometimes people can make the Bible say whatever they want it to say. That's not the goal. We want to be true to Scripture. We want to be sure that we are true to God and His Word. So again, we have those barriers that cross the river, and then we want to cross the principalizing bridge. And then the final step of the process, we take that principle, we want to communicate it to the listeners in our town. We want to help our listeners figure out how they're going to apply this into their lives today. So when it comes to the preaching process, and now here, this is what you're going to be doing. And hopefully you already did this. If you got your assignment done that I gave you for today, you've already started grasping the entire book of 1 Peter. Short book, 5 chapters, not too long, but you want to get a handle on what is that original writer trying to communicate to the original readers. So you all read through the book in a single sitting 3 different times. That didn't take too long, did it? Easy, pretty good, right? You guys feel like you got a good handle on it? Know what the book's about, what he's saying, what's happening there? Okay, so now the next part of the process I had you do was come up with at least 5 threads that tied the whole book together, something that seemed a major idea that you found reoccur in all 5 chapters, something like that. Now you're supposed to write those down, put those down that you submitted on MyFire and have them ready to share here. And in a few minutes, we're going to begin to discuss through those. Take a look at what we saw. Now, what ties the whole book together doesn't need to be the thing that ties the whole series together. And I will say, in terms of exegetical per sermon series that preachers will preach through an entire book of the Bible, they don't always try to have something to hold the series together. I do. I've seen a lot of preachers who do that. I think it helps people. Like when we did your topical series, there was something about the series idea, help things stay together. By the way, you guys did incredible. Was that fun? Hopefully you enjoyed doing that. Love the way you came out with all the different sports themes. Some of you so incredibly creative, the things that you wove in and brought together. Just loved it. You're phenomenal preachers. I'm bragging about you to the pastors that I'm meeting with here. So they are impressed already based on what I'm telling them about you guys. And you're some of the best preachers I've ever had. So really excited about what's going to happen. But I do want this series to have a thread that ties the series together that is also a thread that ties the book together. Sometimes you can do them separately. Sometimes the only thing's going to tie the series together is, okay, we're going to preach this chapter, this verse from this book. The next week we'll go to the next verse, the next verse, the next verse, the next week, the next week. And you don't worry about trying to connect them together. But I want you to find something that we can use, again, to be the hook that's going to connect our listeners and get them to want to come back and be a part of that. So we're looking, as you share your threads here in a little bit, what did you find? How can we put those together? And then figure out the flow of the entire book. How can there? Okay. So Nick asks for some to restate that. So we're talking about right here, Nick, about finding you all read through 1 Peter 3 times, 5 in 3 different translations. You hopefully have found your 5 threads that tie the book together. We're going to pick one of those to become the series that's going to tie your whole series together, like you did with your topical series. We want it to be something that you find that connects 1 Peter. Also, as you've read through that, hopefully you've got an idea, a feel for the flow. And I'm just going to ask a couple of you if you can speak up. What do you think? What do you notice different about the way Peter writes than the way Paul writes? I mean, they're both writing letters, but did you pick up anything different in his style? Anybody brave and bold to speak up? Everybody's quiet today. Okay. Should I pick on you? Okay, Andrew, what do you think? Okay, it's really loud in Portico, Matt says. So don't ask the Portico crew to share. Looked like, Jess, you're out in front of Portico. Are you? Is it nice and quiet there? Okay. So no, it's not quiet, too noisy. Or are you guys just afraid to share? Okay.
So Dr. Ehler, I would love to share, but honestly, when I was reading, I wasn't thinking about, how does Paul write versus how does Peter write? So
okay.
I'm looking back over right now.
Your mind's not flowing that way. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
I think there's a lot of similarities because they are both, they're both steeped in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And they're both steeped in Jewish scripture.
Yeah.
And so a lot of like what they speak about flows through this. I do think I'm trying to think back on Paul's letters. I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't remember suffering ever being a super big theme in any of Paul's letters. And I feel like this is really big here.
It is. That's a good insight. He mentioned suffering. Paul mentioned suffering, like in Philippians, especially is one that comes out, Galatians a little bit, but not as much. So yeah, good insight, Bo. Anybody else?
I guess I can go.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is that Paul talks a lot about justification by faith, and that's not necessarily about works, and Peter doesn't necessarily touch on that. So
okay. Yeah, notice Peter doesn't have as much theology, although it's there. And Paul tends to go theology. Okay, practical. Peter kind of goes back and forth.
Yes.
Unless and he'll come back to those same themes like suffering. You'll see come back and forth in those things. And some of Paul, like some of them have there, but Paul's more highly structured. I think if you're into Myers-Briggs types, Paul's definitely a TJ, and And Peter's got to be an F in there someplace. He's just kind of floating around a little bit. So, okay, but think about that. And hopefully you guys will be continuing to read through the book one more time as you think about your passage. You're going to pick out here in a little bit. The next part of the process is to figure out, okay, the historical context of the entire book. And there's both, and I want you to listen carefully. Students always not, there's some who don't get this. There's your biggest assignment in getting ready for this sermon is going to be due before we go to Miami. And it's going to be a paper that's going to take several pieces of the process. One of the big ones is going to be the historical context of the entire book. But I'm also going to want you to do that for your passage. You need to do both. Some students will do only one or the other. Some will do so much time on the historical context of the whole book, they won't have time to deal with it on the passage. But I do want you to answer some questions. Take a look. When did this letter written? What was going on? What was going on politically? How did that affect the writing of it? What was going on in the lives of the believers there? Is it written to Christians? Are they Jewish Christians? Are they Gentile Christians? How long have they been believers? Can we tell any of that? Some of these we can answer just from the book itself. Some of them we can't. Some of them there will be some early church tradition that will help us understand that. Some we're just going to have to make a guess. And sometimes, again, I want you to always start with scripture. Always start with the Bible first when answering any of these questions, but be ready to get some other resources. You're going to have to use a good number of those to get the right answer. Also want to take a look at the author. Who is the author here and what's that author's role? This one's a pretty easy one in that respect, but the bigger question is, what's the author's relationship to the readers? And that's a really big question with this particular letter. Are there specific people who are mentioned and what can we tell about them? Is there any geography mentioned, which there is in this letter? And how does that play into things and understanding things? Are there any major events referred to in the whole book? Why does it seem like this whole book was written? And Bo and Summer also kind of hinting at some things there, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. Then to be able to answer that, again, starting with the scripture itself, you also can look at the introductions of commentaries, Bible encyclopedias, your New Testament survey book, textbook is a good one. A Bible software can be really good. We'll talk more and more about Bible software. And if you haven't already done so, I encourage you to go out and get the Accordance version, unless you've already got the Logos. I'll allow either of those. I am going to require you to use Bible software, and I will highly encourage you to buy it. If you cannot, we will show you how to use the free stuff, but let me just say there's some things that are worth paying for. If you envision yourself as a preacher in the future, why not? You've invested this much money in your education. A tool you're going to use for years to come will be well worth it. So once you've gotten a handle on the whole book, you've got an idea where to go. We next want to figure out what is going to be our series thread, what's going to be our series title. Just like you guys did with the topical series, we're going to walk you through a process. We're going to start it today, and we're probably not going to finalize the title. We're going to pre-final title by the time we're done today. And then we're in the room on Thursday. Then we can work it through and come up with our definite title. The next thing to do, and I've already done this for you for this one, but when you're out there and you're Pastor Brittany and you're preaching your series through the book of Isaiah, it's going to be up to you, Pastor Brittany, to figure out, okay, am I going to do one chapter at a time? I'm going to do half a chapter at a time. How many weeks I'm going to do this? This is tricky. And it was really tricky for me because I didn't want some of you to have to do 12 verses and others of you only doing 2. I wanted to keep it even, but I also wanted it to be a thematic break. So some of you are going to have 4 verses, some of you are going to have 7 verses. And that's just the way it works out. Again, to make it where it's a smooth place to break without it being too long in any given sermon. So make it work that way. Then as you've gone through the book, again, as you come up with your idea for your series thread and title, I recommend when you're on your own, you're going to be the main preacher, kind of coming up with some preliminary message titles, preliminary message threads for each of your sermons so you can talk through that. And I'm going to ask you to do that 2 weeks from today. I want you to show up in class with some preliminary ideas of where you think your message is going to go. We will spend some time in class, both of those days. That is 2 weeks from today, 2 weeks from Thursday. I'll do some teaching, but there's going to be a lot of discussion. We're going to be sharing what you're finding and what kind of things you're going to be coming up with there. So looking for a thread that's going to be connecting your whole book. I know you guys have already got those shared in your assignment that you submitted, but you want to be looking for things. First of all, what does it seem like the author is trying to communicate? What is the main idea? What's the main objective there? What connects the major subjects that are addressed in this letter? And what are those major subjects themselves? What do they have in common? Does it seem like there's a current issue that the listeners were dealing with? It was the reason the writer wrote that letter. Are there any metaphors or allegories that connect it together? Something that you see reemerging again and again. Is there a major person who seems to be there? Are there words that occur that get used over and over and over again? And I'll share one with you as we go in 1 Peter. I actually preached through 1 Peter when I was a lead pastor after finishing my year and a half of seminary level Greek. And it was the second book I preached through in Greek, and it was really fun. And I found a word that I just loved, and I decided to make it my series title. Just because it's so distinctive in terms of its meaning, and it was really fun. But there are actually several that Peter used far more than Paul did. And there can be some good tools to help you kind of find those to just see, okay, what words come up and what ideas. Is there anything else that we can use that can find that just ties everything together? It may even be what were the readers going through, or possibly what type of literature it is, like Proverbs. Proverbs are connected because they're Proverbs. Psalms are connected because they're Psalms. Song of Solomon is a song. So what do we find that are there? So I've asked you to take a look through the 1 Peter as you read it and come up with 5 major themes that you see recur through 1 Peter. Submit them before class today and come to class ready to share with this. You also took a listen to Dr. Gabriel Salguero's sermon, and hopefully we'll have some time to discuss that as well. And let me just walk you through the list of assignments before we share these, but we're going to spend a good chunk of time walking through what you found. So that's today, those 2. By Thursday, I want you to, for your passage, you're going to have your passage assigned by the end of class today. I'm going to have you work through the observation list that you get from Duval and Hayes and the I list that I will give you by the end of our class session today. Then you're going to have to do a word study that will be due a week from Thursday, and we'll talk on Thursday about what's going to be involved in that. And then on the context and commentary study, I said 26, it's actually the 31st. So don't stress on that. That date is wrong on that. That'll get fixed later on. And then we'll be going to Miami. Yes, April 1 through 4. Hope you guys looking forward to that. I'm so stoked about it, just being down here, looking at all the places we go and thinking about it. It's going to be great. And you'll do a report on that after we get back. That will be due April 14th. You'll be completing a book that you will review every sermon, kind of like you did for the online stuff. Won't be writing as much, but then I'll also have you do a paper. You'll be reflecting on the trip. Also remember, anybody, I haven't got any submissions from anybody on your outside sermon yet. Anybody done that? If not, if you're preaching already, you already done yours, Jess? Good. You had people filling this stuff. Okay, that's right. You did yours like early in January even, almost, right? That's cool. So everybody else, talk to your youth pastor. Some of you already are youth pastors. Talk to your friends. Do Parks and Revs. Take advantage of he's not doctor yet, Daniel Day's invitation. Wherever you go, have people fill out the evaluations. What I need from you is your study notes. Your sermon notes can be an outline, manuscript, whatever. And then evaluation forms by people filling those out. Okay. And then you're going to preach. You'll be preaching. The whole class will be preaching all throughout April. And then your final self-evaluation, you got to go back and watch your first sermon again. And then this one, your exegetical. How did you improve? And how do you still want to improve? Just 1 to 2 pages, double space. That's it. And then you are done. Okay, so there's your upcoming assignment. All right, next thing, trip to Miami coming up. All right, some of you told me who you wanted for roommates. I had to get creative and work all this out. And if you're mad at me, I'm sorry, but you'll have to stay mad at me. But here's your roommates. We see Jess and Lauren together as roommates, Summer and Brittany together, Kate and Chacha, Bo and Kevin, Nick and John, James and Jordan, Matt and Andrew, Chatham and Josh, and Adrian, and I had to keep him separate because he may not be going both days. He may be bringing his wife. So he's going to be in his own separate room right there. So hopefully that's okay. Any issues that just are not going to work up, talk to me offline on that, but you guys can get along with each other. Have a great time. So let's go through our schedule a little bit here. Sometimes things will double. I don't know why they do that. So still things could change somewhat, but here's the plan. Let's plan to meet at 9 o'clock in the parking lot right there by the guard shack. And we will be loading up. We have 2 vans. My wife Kira will be driving one. I will be driving the other. We'll try to get on the road by 9:30. And we took a look at all of the food options. They are not totally confirmed yet, but one thing that's really fun, we'll get to eat some Salvadoran cuisine on the way down in Lake Placid in the middle of Orange territory. And it was a great place. Loved it last year. I will probably have you order in advance. They were very slow in serving us, but the food was incredible. So if we can do our order in advance, hopefully we can do that. Then in the afternoon, we will ride some airboats through the Everglades on our way down before we run back into civilization for a great time. And then at 5 o'clock, we will be meeting with Dr. Maria Khalil, who pastors the largest Assemblies of God church, pastored by a female right down here in Pembroke Pines. It'll be a great time. The date right? No, it's not. The date is wrong. April 1st. Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank the Lord.
Thank you for
I got worried.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I just realized that's wrong. Okay, let me fix this. I copied stuff. I updated from last year and realized, nope, that's not right. Okay, but you guys, anybody else need the excuse form? I sent those out, about 6 weeks ago? Send that to your profs. Be sure that they are aware. Okay. All right, so Friday evening, we'll hang out with Dr. Maria Khalil. And her story is powerful. And then for supper that night, we will be having a Korean hot pot, place called High Pot. Sounds good. It's real close near there. And then we can check into the hotel. And is there something wrong with the excuse form? Andrew, was the information wrong?
Remember, some of our names weren't on it.
Oh, some of the name. Oh, you know what?
Yeah, they're still not on there. When you resent it to me, it still has like 6 names.
Oh, okay. Thank you for reminding me. I'll fix that right away. Let me put that on my to-do list before I forget. I'm just gonna send myself an email. Okay. So yeah, sorry about that. I did forget. Okay. So that evening, our hotel is not going to be too far from where we're having dinner. But then if you want, we can do a driving tour of Miami at night. We can even walk Miami Beach, South Beach at night if you want. We can kind of go around, head out. If you have homework or something you need to do, you can stay there at the hotel, but it's usually a fun time. So we'll do that. And then we can have all of our South Florida residents. If you got any special places you want us to go, things you want us to show the students, you can let us know. Right. Then we get up early, but not too early on Saturday, eat breakfast at the hotel, 8 o'clock, stop for coffee on the road and make our way to Plantation Seventh-day Adventist Church. And they love us, very diverse for Seventh-day Adventist Church and great people there. We didn't get to go last year, so it'll be 3 years since we've been there, but I've been there several times. I don't know if it'll be the same pastor or not, but church of a couple hundred, and there are usually a lot of good things going on. And then we will go 11 o'clock, get to go to Temple Aron HaKodesh, which is the Holy Ark, and it is a Messianic synagogue. It is Pentecostal, and these are Christ followers, but they have a heart to reach out to Jewish people. So there'll be lots of Jewish tradition. Anybody want to do anything in Hebrew, you can do that. We will be singing a lot of Hebrew songs. And I think I told you before, you're welcome to dance. It is kind of a choreographed dance, but it's not too hard to figure out. Most of your students really love to do that. We do things like get to kiss the Torah. It is not a short service. I'll just let you know, anybody who has any condition where if you don't eat quickly, you end up getting a problem, we will have snacks in the van. And I'll just let you know, meal times are not going to be regular, but hopefully you'll find that it's worth it. People usually do. But then after that service, we're going to get to eat Moroccan food nearby, dar tagine. I've never been there, but it sounds great, and it's not too far from Aron HaKodesh. So it will be a good place to kind of get some food, have a great time there. Then we'll go to a Catholic church in Margate, St. Vincent Catholic Church, and then go to Coastal Community Church, which is an ARC church plant. It's seeker focused, but very Christ honoring. We went there last year for the first time, and they've actually contributed money to Southeastern. So it's kind of great. We made that connection that way. And so you can get kind of a vibe for an ARC plant, how they do church. The pastor and his wife, both co-pastors. She preached last year when we got there. I don't know if she'll be preaching this year or not. And then that evening, we'll be joining the youth and young adult service for Vine Church. They are a large church out of Brazil. This is one of their campuses. They have services in English, Spanish, and Portuguese all going simultaneously. Last year, some of our students wanted to step into the Portuguese service because, man, it was hopping. Let me say the English service was awesome. It was incredible, very Pentecostal, a lot of energy, great time. It will be late, but you'll still be hungry, and we get to have Thai and sushi afterwards. And come back to the hotel. Get some sleep, however much sleep you can. Get up early in the morning. Yes, it is early, but again, you will find it worth it. We'll eat breakfast at the hotel, then head to Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. We will have real church. I'm going to just say it's always one of the favorite preachers on the tour year after year. Incredible. And then we'll go to VU Church. We might be showing up a few minutes late. It's a long drive, but we'll be coming in. We can't miss VU. With Rich Jr. and Don Cherie Wilkerson. I've not been to their brand new building. They moved in since we were there last year. This is the first time they've had a 24/7 full building in South Miami. So we'll go there, check it out. I'm going to drop you guys off and go get you coffee. I know I'll miss it, but I think it'll be worth it to give you some caffeine to make it through. So I'll have you give me the coffee order. There's a Starbucks around the corner, so I'll have it ready for you when you get back in the van. Then we'll head out to Oasis Church in Pembroke Pines, another independent Pentecostal church. We have actually several SU students who attend Oasis or grew up at Oasis Church. I've never been there for service, so this will be a first for me. Looking forward to that one. And then we'll go to one that's always talked about, not always liked, but let me just say they are the most produced service church I've ever attended. Church by the Glades runs about 10,000 people, and man, they know how to put on a show. And again, they love Christ and they're about reaching unchurched people. So if you don't like it, you may be too Christian for them. I'll just put it that way. But it's an incredible experience. And the fact that we're going to be there 2 weeks before Easter, I'm going to encourage you to look at all of these churches, see what they're doing to get their people motivated to invite people to come to church on Easter. I've been to Church by the Glades the week after Easter before, and they always do a massive teaser during the Easter service to bring people back, and it's always fascinating. So that will be interesting. Then we get to have lunch, Brazilian grill. Ooh, nothing like it. Actually, this church where I'm meeting at right now, they have a Portuguese Brazilian service in the afternoon, and the Brazilian pastor was telling me that he could hook us up if it turns out this place isn't good. But I think he was saying that these guys are really good, and I've been here before. It's a great one. Then we'll head north to Christ Fellowship. It's a bit of a drive, but we will see some of our SEU alumni are going to meet us there afterwards. Unfortunately, Pastors Todd and Julie Mullins are not able to meet us with us after the service. But Pastor Dave Samil, who's the campus pastor for the Gardens campus, just graduated with MA in ministerial leadership last fall. And then Tyler Gay, very close friend of ours, Tyler and Tara, he graduated 2017 with his undergraduate degree in pastoral ministries and graduated with his MDiv 2 years later. Been serving on staff there for 4 years now. Wow, hard to believe. And some of you, we may see some more recent graduates as well who will be coming and being a part of that. So I like Alicia Hooper, I think will be able to join us. So if you know Alicia, she's excited to see. She was on this tour last year and made the decision to come to Christ Fellowship right at that dinner. So it'll be a great time. And then we'll be heading up to Juneau Beach. It's probably going to be the Hampton Inn instead of the Holiday Inn. They just gave us a better deal on email today. And then that morning you can sleep in if you want. You can get up early and watch the sunrise over the beach. We're not right on the beach. We're about a block from the beach, so it's not too far. You can go swimming if you want. The water's warm. That's what I did last year. It was great. You can work out at the hotel, do homework, just chill, whatever you want. And then we will plan to leave the hotel about 11:30 and then stop for lunch. Some of you wanted seafood, and this sounds like a good place in Vero on the way back. And then we'll make it back to campus about 4 o'clock. Any questions on the tour? Unmute and speak up. Sound good? You look, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'm pumped. It's gonna be awesome.
It will be awesome. It will be awesome.
Can I say?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just went to Puerto Rico. This is like kind of off topic, but I have to tell you. I went to Puerto Rico and they like for a mission trip, and they had me preach like randomly, and they had me preach to the leaders. So I got to preach my homiletics sermon to the leaders in Puerto Rico.
Awesome.
I know.
That's
I was
so
like,
cool.
if I didn't take homiletics, I would not be ready for this.
That's cool. That's cool. That's so exciting to see God open doors like that.
Yeah, it was really cool. But this trip sounds amazing. I'm so excited.
That's congratulations. So excited to hear it. Yeah, it's my wife and I love it. We there. Yes, summer there is a Brazilian steakhouse. It's not as expensive as Texas de Brazil. I don't know if you guys have been to those. Like the pastor I was talking to, yeah, those things are expensive for a reason, but it's still really good. We've been to this one before. Really good. Lots of food. Great stuff. All right. So if you got any questions on that, let me know. I'll get that list fixed, and hopefully we can get that sent out again. All right. And so we want to, again, choose a series title. And that's going to be part of our goal to begin thinking about that today. We want to think about, okay, what are the words from the book length thread? What are buzzwords that everybody's using? I loved your one about the playbook. That was so good. Come up with something think like that. Okay, what's popular in movies now? Anybody notice how movies don't have the power that they did 3 years ago? I mean, I think post-pandemic, people are not watching movies as much anymore. It's more like, series on Netflix are going to be a bigger thing than movies. Something, there's something you want to do. Okay. It's a book, TV show title, something that people are there. You can bring something out of the main subject of the series, can make it application focused, that is speaking to people's felt needs. My biggest thing that I ever did as a lead pastor was doing family and relationship series. When I marketed those, we would get tons and tons of people come in. When I would market a series on apologetics, answering questions why people don't believe, very few people responded to that. There's something about speaking to people's needs that can do that. Find a way to generate curiosity, bring up current issues or questions. What is something that are there? So let's think through now, and I'm going to take this off of this share and put it now on the PowerPoint itself, so you guys can speak up. But what do you find as just begin to speak up? I'll let some of you there, whoever's got courage and boldness, can start first and speak up and share one of your ideas. And then whenever you find something that's not up there, somebody else can do something else there. Let's come up with as many as we can. Again, we want to make this like microwave popcorn. We want to keep sharing ideas until we get them all covered. And I'm still popping up the wrong one here. So anybody got some ideas?
I'll share one.
Okay, go for it.
Wait, which one of us?
Adrian can go first.
Sorry, Nick.
And then
roles and responsibilities. There's like 3 chapters that go through roles, like wives, husbands, slaves, things like that. So
roles and responsibilities. Okay, and I realize I'm not sharing the right thing here. Okay, great. Nick, what'd you have?
One of the things I had was, responding to evil.
Responding to evil. Okay, good. All right. And Bo, you talked about suffering, right? You saw that as something that recurs a lot.
Right.
Good.
Suffering and personal holiness.
Personal holiness. True. Yes, indeed. Okay.
I had one.
Go for it.
It goes along with like both, but I said suffering doesn't equal your identity.
Suffering is not your identity. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I would say one of another topic was like obedience to the elders, or like listening to the wisdom of the ones that are above you.
Okay, say that one more time again. The audio was a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It might be like obedience or like listening to the wisdom of the elder.
Okay, obedience. All right. And wisdom of the elders. Okay.
Yeah, no, mine was kind of along with that about like submitting to authority. So.
Okay.
It's kind of like the initial suffering and then great reward.
Okay. Let me delete this here. I'm gonna fix my typos here. And by the way, Kira is here now, and you guys are going to get to know her. And she is living proof that there's such a thing as God's grace. That I get to spend my life with this incredible woman here. So
he is very gracious. Hi, you all. It's good to see you.
So yeah, you get to know her well. All right. So let's see. Going back to you guys come up with some great ideas here. Okay. Others people have.
Another one. Oh, Jess, come on.
Right. Nick,
I'm just kidding. Live freely and for God.
live freely and for God. Okay.
Yeah, that's like one thing I got. But then also talked a lot about him being the just judge. So like
just judge. Okay.
Kind of like vacation.
Okay. Great.
I had like stand firm for the glory to be revealed.
Stand firm for the glory to be revealed. Okay. Okay, great. Anybody else? Matt Cradleman.
Yeah, so when I was reading it, it kind of felt like it was like a kind of like rules and guidelines for the Gentiles as they became Christians, and they can kind of get grafted into the kingdom. And so it almost felt like the book of the law, but like an updated version.
Okay.
And so like maybe like family rules or something like that of like.
Okay. Being part of God's family. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Others.
I was going to say something kind of similar to that, in like the role of like people within the church and like how we're supposed to act with one another within the church as well as with like the outside world.
Okay.
How like our church life influences our outer kind of worldly life.
Okay. Inside and outside. How's that?
I will say something also about like speaking and doing righteous stuff. Like he talks about our tongue and the words and things that we do and say as well.
Okay. Can call that righteous living. Right? Good.
Also, another thing that I got was like there's, I don't know how to say this, like the two different lenses of the world. So there's like how the world views things and how Christ followers view things.
Okay. Let's see.
I have another one. I noticed that like it talked about like a call to be holy and like what it means for us to be holy. So.
Okay. Yeah, we have personal holiness, righteous living, those two kind of connected together. So would you think that would cover it?
Yeah, I think that would cover it.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Anybody else? All right. This is a good list here. So now we're going to do kind of like we did with the topical series. Let's see if we can combine them and kind of bring some of them down that way, or find some, be ready to share some new ideas as you see that, see what really jumps out at you. Or there's some that you're like, I'm just not sure it really fits there along the way. So what do you see? Let's try clustering as we go, removing things that jump out. I see several. I'm waiting for you guys to talk. In the meantime, I'm going to move stuff around, but speak up. Nobody's saying anything. What do you see?
Dr. Ehler, it seems like there definitely is a good amount, like 4 through 7, talking about like rules, responsibilities, role, the part that we play in the church. I think that definitely could be a theme, just making it catchy.
Yeah.
I think you can maybe put like personal holiness and righteous living like together and kind of compare those two.
Okay. combine them into the same line right there. Okay.
And I think with like personal holiness and righteous living, it also like that's like what the point of having all of these rules and roles and submission to authorities, like the purpose of that is the greater good is that we're living a righteous holy life in obedience.
Okay. So we're gonna.
Yeah. Sorry. One sec. I think a really big part of this whole even book, like the why behind it, has been like it said in verse 9 of chapter 2. It says that you are a chosen people, and so it's like I feel like I'm trying to answer the question of like why is this all happening, and like trying to take this and like, all right, well, you need to be holy. Why? Well, because you're this. Well, why? Because you're holy, you're chosen people.
Yeah.
So like maybe a big theme would be like you're chosen. It's like says you're a chosen people, a royal priesthood, and a holy nation, and God's special possession. I think that is a really big encompassing of a lot of this.
Right. And that's a good insight, Matt. When all the stuff he's telling us, he gives us a why for it, doesn't he? I mean, the whole thing is kind of going that direction. So Adrian likes the title, The Chosen.
I think another one that you could group together is like suffering, and then talking about how suffering is not your identity.
Okay.
Because you could kind of go back to back on those and talk about suffering and then how it's not your identity.
Okay.
Another one I think is the roles and responsibilities and roles in the church. Those can kind of be mushed. It could either be something like, I think that also goes into identity, because what your identity is, that pours into what you end up doing. So maybe that could be just all under one.
Under roles and which one, these two here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay.
Adrian just said that submission can go under that too.
Okay.
In the chat.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Anything else you guys are seeing?
Stand firm could probably go with suffering. Suffering isn't your identity.
Also, just for clarification, what did they mean by like the inside and outside?
That was my summary of, I should remember who it was who was saying that, the way that the view it's similar to how the world.
Okay, because I was going to say we could combine those if that was
Yeah,
like what they
I
meant.
think that's why I put them there, because they were kind of going that direction.
Okay, perfect.
Right. Okay. Anything else? Now, there's probably an app thing here that I've never used before. Is there a way we can do a poll real quickly on Zoom? Anybody done that before? I could create a survey monkey, but that'd take a little bit of time to do. So what I'm going to do is, if you guys can see these, maybe take a screenshot or something, I will read them off. I don't see everybody's faces unless I stop sharing, but then I'll have you raise your hand. And so I'll read each of these a couple of times, get familiar with them. We'll go through them and I'll have you vote on which of these you like. Again, we'll do it like we did last time. Vote for as many as you like. First go around, you can vote any number of times you would like. And then we're going to try to find the clusters of those that get the most votes, and we'll reduce the numbers. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, I can put an emoji chat in the chat for yes. Yeah, we could try that. You want to try that? I don't know how that's going to work. Let's see if we can let that. We will fill it up like crazy, but let's do it. All right. I'll type for number 1. We'll keep the screen up here on this one. And again, this is just the thread of the series, not the title. This is what is going to be the main thing we're going to look to kind of keep all the messages together. We'll do the title of the series later on. So if you would like, number 1, personal holiness, righteousness, righteous living, obedience to be your main theme, go ahead and type in right now. You can vote for as many as you want. Again, let's do the hand raise thing. Let's see if we can do hand raises. How many hand raises do we have? No, hit your button. You guys know where your button is on your hand raise on the app? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Last chance. Nope, 6. Okay, everybody got it? 3, 2, 1. Okay, we will put 6 right here for this one. Okay, then cancel them off. Now going next. How many like family rules? We're part of God's family. We got new rules. This is what we're going to do. Okay. See Bo's hand. Anybody else? Okay. 1, that's it. All right. Adrian had raised his hand. Okay. So we got 2, or did Bo take his down? We'll call it 2. Okay. All right. Number 3, clear them off. You have them up there. Guidelines for Gentiles becoming Christians. If you'd like that to be yours, go ahead and click your hand raise button right now. Okay, we got 1. Okay. Next one, responding to evil. Anybody like that one? Click the hand raise button. Okay, we got a 1. Any others? Okay, next one, something related to suffering. Suffering's not your identity. Stand firm for the glory to be revealed. It'll be like, how do you deal with suffering when wrong is done to you? Okay, I got 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 participants. Anybody else? Okay, again, you can vote as many times as you want right now. All right, and now to number 6, the difference, reacting to people inside the church and outside the church versus the comparison of us inside the church versus the world. You got 1? Any others? 2? Anybody else? Okay. All right, and we're over on the other side. Live freely and for God. Anybody wanting these? Got 1? Brittany. Okay. Anybody else? Next one, the just judge. Okay. Next one, roles and responsibility, roles in the church, submission to authorities, relationships, those kinds of things. Okay, we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, that's it. So I see. Okay, so we got 6 right there. All right, next one, the wisdom of the elders. Okay, we got 1. Next is chosen, the idea of being chosen, kind of play on the series theme title. Okay, got 1. Nope, nobody. Nobody wants to know about being chosen. Got 1. Anybody else? Okay, now I'm going to do, just to save these, just for the record, I'm going to create another slide we're going to use to vote these down here. And I'm going to get rid of everything with below 5 votes. That will narrow our list down quite a bit. See fewer than 5 votes, Kira will correct me for that one. Okay. Okay, again, this is the thread that we're going to build our series around, the major topic. Now, you can vote for 2. Vote for 2, no more than 2. As many, you don't have to vote for 2. If there's one you would like, you can keep your vote to count 1. Okay. Personal holiness, righteous living, obedience, something related to that idea. That's the one that you would like to have the series thread. Raise your hand now on the app. Okay, I see 5. Okay, next option, suffering, related to suffering. Suffering's your identity, standing firm for the glory to be revealed, things related to that. You got 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Again, you want to think, what can you preach and what can you preach the entire book through to make those kind of connections? Do them there. Okay. And then finally, roles and responsibility, roles in the church, submission, authorities, relationships, things like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Wow. That's it. Now, is some people not voting, or is it because I'm only seeing the 6 things there? How many people we have on class? Okay. All right, now we're gonna have to keep all 3 up, but this time you only get to vote once. But let's have a time for discussion. Anybody want to make an appeal on why your idea should be the one that people go with?
I want to make an appeal.
Go for it, Jess.
Okay, so I really enjoy the suffering topic because I think that's the thing that goes through the book the most, but that's just my opinion. But I also think it's something that you don't hear a lot in the church, of people like suffering, and like everyone suffers in some type of way. And I think identity is something a lot of people struggle with, but it comes down to it of like stripping away all materialistic things and like going through suffering. Your identity is not found in materialistic things. And I think that's something that like our culture struggles with the most. So that is my appeal.
All right, thank you,
I
Jess.
see something, Dr. Ehler.
Sure, go for it, Adrian.
I agree with Jess that that's a really good thing, that we definitely should talk about suffering because it's in there a ton. And I think the most inclusive topic out of the three would be roles and responsibilities, because we could even talk about the role of suffering in our faith and how it plays in, as well as submission, as well as authority, and kind of all those other things, you know.
I'm with Jess. I agree with the whole suffering and talking about like how it's not your identity. And I think it could be like a really cool topic to talk about and go more into.
And
Adam, go for
it. So I'm gonna say that like the first one about personal holiness and like righteous living and obedience encompasses the other two, because a lot of times the reason we suffer is because we're trying to live holy and righteous lives in spite of the world. And then also, what are our roles and responsibilities in relation to living a holy life? Like it encompasses, I feel like, all three of the topics.
So can we come up with a thread that will tie all those together? Would that be the goal? Okay. Is that, would like to go that direction? Then let's think, we don't have to be stuck on it now, but let's think through. If there could be a way to tie all these, think through something that would indicate that. Let's add these on here. So we can put all three, or we can put suffering and roles. So now you've got now 5 options to vote for. We did not simplify this, but that's okay, right? Make sense? Any other thoughts? All right, let's do a vote again. Go back through there. How many want to stay in, again, voting once? Personal holiness, righteous living, obedience. Okay, got 2, 3. Okay, suffering. Suffering's not your identity, stand firm. Just that right there. 1, 2, 3. Nope, we're just down to 1. Okay. How many want roles, responsibilities, relationships to be the connecting point? Okay, 1. All right, somebody had a comment up here. Somebody else for personal holiness, so we need another one. Okay, we can do 4. All right, and then how many would like to find a creative way to blend all 3 of these in a major concept, major thread? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And how many just would rather stick with the idea of the suffering and the roles? Okay, so we got 3. Nope, 2. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have to try and get creative to blend all of these together, find a way to kind of do this. So now let's see, and I did not, by the way, you're the first undergrad class who's preached through 1 Peter that I've taught, so hopefully this will be fun. Can you think of a title that would be connecting and motivate some interest that would bring a lot of these things together? Adrian, you got your hand up. Is that left over from a vote, or is that an idea? Bo as well.
Oh, that was left over, but I put in the chat, if we potentially had this name be like identity crisis and have it kind of, summarize like all of the different components of our identity in Christ.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big one there. Matt says the chosen. Yeah, John.
I would say like eternal perspective, and I feel like having that eternal perspective and like seeking the Lord falls into all those categories of the threads.
Okay.
And how we can do that.
Eternal perspective. All right, good. Good. Others? Okay. Let's keep these up for tonight and come back on Thursday. And I want you to reread the whole book at least once, plus your passage and come back with your idea of what you think would be the best title. And we can still do some fresh ones, but we'll wait and do our vote on Thursday. And somebody remind me if I forget. Unfortunately, I forget way too often, but these are great ideas. So, okay. Any questions or comments about this? Any other ideas before we head off of this one? Okay, so let me talk about how I chose to break up the book and things that you want to look for. You don't always trust the chapter breaks. Fortunately, First Peter is a good book for that, but there are some books like John chapter 8 and what are some other ones? Ephesians has some bad breaks. They're just like, okay, why did the people break it there? Remember, the chapter breaks were not put in at scripture. They're putting in about 1000 AD. So it was quite a different situation. So look instead for where does the theme break? Where can you cover a major idea? Like I said, you want to have it kind of balanced in length, but you also want to keep the topic together. Let me just say, some of your passages are going to break in funny places. It's not always a clean break. Peter is a more fluid. He'll kind of flow from one thing to another. There are some places he'll definitely do a definite hard change. Like the middle of chapter 2, there's a definite hard change. In the middle of chapter 3, there's a hard change. The beginning of chapter 5. But some of the others are subtle. And so just to keep it balanced for you, I had to try and cut it sometimes in the middle of the section, and I'll just apologize beforehand for that. But I do want you to have one major thread for each of your sermons that is A, connected to the series thread, yet B, also unique and new. It brings new information in that has not been covered by others. So that's why by March 31st and 29th, when we're having those sessions, I'm going to want you to be sharing your thoughts, working through what you're coming up with, so we can be sure you're complementing one another, but not stepping on each other's toes, because there are going to be some of these themes that will come up again and again. And sometimes you can deal with the same theme, but from a fresh perspective. You all talked about how suffering's so common. You can look at that from some different ways. So here's the threads and the way it's broken off. So I'm going to do this by whoever speaks up first, whoever I hear first, give me your name and the passage you would like. Speak it out.
Yes, 1, 3, 2, 7.
Okay, this is not going to work, is it? Okay, let's do it. Let's do it by chat box. Okay, I got, let's see. Matt's gone first. He's got 2, 7 through 12. Okay. Okay, Chatham's got 1 Peter. Which chapter is that? Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead and type your stuff in.
1 Peter 1.
Oh, 1.
1 Peter 1, 14 through 19.
Yeah, 14 through 19. Okay. Okay.
I'm just happy.
Okay. All right. Let's see who's next. Jess wants the first one. All right. Awesome. 3 through 7. That's a great passage. Okay. And who's after Chatham? Adrian, 3, 1 through 7. Okay, good. And married man talking about marriage. That's the way to do it. Okay, Kate doing 3, 8 through 12. Okay, who else? John's got 5, 1 through 4, talking about ministry, leadership. That's a good one. Okay. And then Josh, 3, 13 through 17. Nick, 18 through 22. Okay, Andrew, what's Andrew got? 1, 20 through 25. Okay, Cha-Cha. Someone took the one you wanted. I'm sorry, Cha-Cha. Let's pick another one yet. Let's see.
Hey, Dr. Ehler, I think you may have missed mine. I don't know, or maybe it didn't go through. 5 through 9.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Bo.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, am I missing anybody else? Let me go back through it here. Kate, Adrian, Chatham, Jess, Matt, Nick, Andrew, Cha-Cha. Okay, are we missing that many people not in class today? Or some of you not picked yet?
There's a couple that aren't here.
Okay. Let's see, who do we got next? Okay, Shacha hasn't picked yet. Sarah has got 2, 1 through 6. Okay. And then we can pick for those who are missing.
Can I just have a random one? I can't pick.
You can't pick? You want us to pick randomly for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, let me get the class list up here too. Okay, so Brittany, would you like to go early or late?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay, we'll put you in on the first one here.
Okay.
I'm in the first chapter, 8 through 13. Okay, Shacha said 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 6. Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody else who missing who's here? Summer doesn't know what she wants. Well, let me see. I mean, these are all incredible. 19 through 25, Summer. That's a powerful passage. You'll love that one. Sound good? Okay with it? Okay, let's see who else do we need to pick for today. Let's see.
Kevin and Lauren.
Yeah, Kevin and Lauren.
And Jordan and James.
They're all not here. Yeah, James is on his way back from Israel, isn't he?
Yep.
Okay, let's just randomly give them this. Then James gets 2, 3, 13 through 18. We get Lauren here. And then Kevin. And then Jordan will take us home. How's that? Okay, so all you guys, hope you'll be watching this recording. You'll know what you're supposed to do. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the sermon itself and what you guys will need to be doing to be ready for the sermon as we do it here. Let me put this. I'm realizing to do this. I'm going to put it back on. Okay, so you know what date. I'm not going to take time to do this right now, but you can see the dates that that you will be preaching based on your passages. So here's the goal: 15 to 20 minutes. So we have some time to give each other some feedback there a little bit in our class period. Here are the dates. You can see we will be preaching starting on April 8th. So it will be 3 passages a day. And that includes the final exam day, which is April 29th. It's actually Tuesday. It's supposed to be a Tuesday. It's on here on the wrong day. I'm going to check and see. I don't know if there'd be a possibility. I cannot be in the room on the Tuesday, but I could on the Thursday. We may come up with a creative idea for when to do that final day of preaching. I've got some thoughts on that, but for now, go ahead and plan. It's actually supposed to be Tuesday, the 29th, not the Thursday. So the day is wrong there. So John, you have your hand raised?
Dr. Ehler, April 29th is a Friday.
Yeah, that's the wrong day.
Graduation day.
Yeah, it's the wrong day. I'm sorry about that. It's the Tuesday of that week will be the day you would preach. Okay. And we may change that a little bit. Okay. April 15th is Friday. Sorry, I was working on this late last night and I didn't get all the dates accurate. You guys need to look at that one more time. Let's move on. If not, we will go to take a look at what to do for your Thursday assignment.
Dr. Ehler, can you actually go back to that slide that said what dates, please?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I think the dates are off. Look at the day of the week, not the number of the day. Yeah, it should be 12, 14, 19, 21, and 26. So it's the 7th is the first day of preaching. So the 7th is the first day. Sorry about that. And so they go off of the day of the week, not the number of the day. Okay, everybody got it? And I'll get that fixed for next time we meet. So now that you know your passage you're going to be studying, I want you to start taking a look at that and do the 3 levels of observation that Carter, Duval, and Hayes call for. And the first is to observe sentences, and that is looking at things like repeated words. Are there words that get repeated over and over again in your passage? Are there contrasts? Are there things that get contrasted, one thing versus another in your passage? Is there a comparison? They use words like or as. Sometimes it's implied that something is looked at. It can be a metaphor or an image. That's hugely significant. Do you see a list? Are things in there? Is there cause and effect mentioned in your passage? It says this happened and it caused something else to happen. A figure of speech, that means it's not literal. It's something that is shown in there. Do you have conjunctions, and, but, nor, for, things that tie things together? Are there verbs and pronouns? And if it's a pronoun, I want you, when you find a pronoun and what is the noun that pronoun is substituting for? Like he, which he? Is the he Bo? Is the he Chatham? Is the he Austin, whoever it might be, okay, we want to find that out. So identify those, and then the verbs, find out where they are, figure out what the subject of the verb is. Now, here's what I want you to do for this, and listen carefully. We may not have enough time for me to give you an example of this, and this is due Thursday. You need to do it by then. I want you to print out, go to Bible Gateway or something, cut and paste your passage onto a Word document. You can do this by hand if you would like, with colored pencils or highlighters, that's fine. Or you can do it into a Word document and do colored highlighting, but have a system by which you identify everything on this list. And I use a different color, perhaps, for repeated words. What I'll do is I'll use one color of highlighting, sometimes underlying, boldface, different things like that. Have one sheet, listen very carefully, one sheet for sentence level observations, another sheet with your passage for the paragraph and discourse level observations. I want it to be full enough, and it needs to be busy. I want you to find every example you can of a repeated word, of contrast, comparison, lists. And every verb, every pronoun needs to be found and discovered. So like I will make, even if I do it on Word, I can turn the words green for a verb, but it can still be a figure of speech, so I can highlight it in yellow. And if I want to do cause and effect, I could do that in an underline. Or I can even draw arrows across the line. This is a way to do that. Paragraphs are similar, but they're broader. What is there a general word and then specific examples of it, or the other way around? Is there a question asked and an answer given? Is there dialogue, talking back and forth? Give you a hint, there's a letter that's not going to be there. Is a means, does it explain how something happens? This occurs quite a bit. Peter does this quite a bit, not in every passage, but in many of your passages it will. Is there a purpose or a result statement? Talks about the reason, and like the word for will often give that. And Peter does that quite a bit. Conditional causes. Here we're looking for things like the if. If something happens, then something else will happen. So I'm looking for what are those conditions? And then are there things that people do? Are there things that God does? Are any words that just evoke emotion along the way? And give me an overall tone, just a word to describe. How would you describe the tone of the passage? It's urgent, it's compassionate, it's fearful, it's excited, it's confident, it's bold. Some little word to give me an idea. How would you describe the tone? So again, these need to be on a different sheet than the first one. Again, it can be paper, it can be on Word, either way. If you want to bring them paper Thursday, that's fine, but I want you to go through that. Use a more literal translation. In other words, don't use New Living Translation or the Message. You can use a New American Standard, English Standard, King James, something like that. If you happen to have studied Greek and you want to do this in Greek, bonus points for you. That'll be good. Good way to do that. You can include the next level, the discourse level observations on the same sheet as the paragraph one. You're looking at what connections do you see? Are there things that seem to connect major ideas? Story shifts. Is there something where what he's talking about shifts from one thing to another? To do this, and I want you to do this, read the passage before and after. Some of you will have story shifts, but it's not going to happen in the middle of your passage. It will be at the beginning, but I want you to identify it if you see that happening. Interchange, that is a story changed the direction in what it talked about. Like some movies or novels will be talking about one set of characters, then all of a sudden, boom, it'll talk about another set of characters going that way. The book of Acts does that. For example, Acts chapter 7, we talk about Stephen and his martyrdom. Then Acts chapter 8, we go and we take a look at Philip the evangelist. In Acts chapter 9, we do go back again to talk about Paul. So we kind of go some different directions there. So translations, you can use, I gave you some suggestions. English Standard Version's good. New Revised Standard, I know a lot of our Bible faculty love that one, not my favorite, but you can do that one. King James is good. New King James is okay. New American Standard is my favorite. There's the Lexham English Bible I have now on Logos. It's a pretty good one. Another one, chiasm. I don't know if you guys studied about that. It's more common in the Old Testament than the New, but occasionally happens. When you start and you end on the same topic and you have another topic right there and another topic right there, so you kind of go through and you come back that direction. You can be looking for that. See if you have that. You may need to look that up. Okay. The other thing I want you to look for is 3 different types of items. Those are insights. What strikes you as you read through? What do you notice as you're praying? And here's my goal. I want you to be open to the voice of the Holy Spirit while you're doing your study. And when you read your passage over and over again, what comes to your mind? What is exciting? What is unusual? Not like you go, why in the world is that? What does that mean? If you had to preach the sermon in the next 10 minutes, what would you say? Put that there. So I want you to give me at least 3 of these, ideally more than 5. Bullet points are fine. Full sentences are fine. And just give them to me on an I list in addition to the stuff you highlight on the text itself. Next one is inquiries. What do you want to know? What do you need to know to better translate the passage? What's not clear to you after the study you've done so far? The inquiry thing is going to help drive you as you start studying commentaries and doing more study in the next steps. And then finally, the inspiration. What is God saying to you right now? And then as you're open to his voice, what do you think, what do you see in the text that it could be that God's speaking to you? Again, this is where that other thing I said earlier would belong. If you had to preach that right now, what would you say? Okay. Now I know we're out of time, but I do want you to be working on those. Be ready to hand it here. Okay. So back a slide. Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you could go back a slide.
Right. And these are all available. This is all available on your content section of the MyFire. I'll also upload and share the recording with you here. Okay. And yeah, we got a lot more to cover, but dive into your text and be going through this. I'll send an email out to everybody, those who could not be with us, so that they can be doing their study. And we'll see you in the classroom on Thursday. Okay. God bless you guys. If you have a question, you want to stay online, I'll be available here for just a minute.
Hey, Dr. Ehler.
Yes, Nick.
I didn't know that we had to turn in the 5 themes that we got from 1 Peter, but I did it once I saw that you put that on a slide. I did it like
you did it during class.
Yeah, I just
okay.
No, and then I saw you put like the book threads thing up on one of the slides, and I was like, oh shoot. Okay, so I did submit it, but you'll see it late. Like
yeah, so you'll get your 90% credit for it. So
okay, sounds good.
Very late. Okay, great. Thank you, Nick. See you on Thursday.